Africa Climate Resilient Investment Facility, AFRI-RES, strengthening capacity of member states and stakeholders to build climate-resilient investments in transport, energy, agriculture, water, and ecosystem sector.
AFRI-RES is the Africa Climate Resilient Investment Facility Program. It is an initiative of the United Nations Economic Commission for Africa, the African Union Commission, the World Bank, the African Development Bank, with support from the Nordic Development Fund. It was established to support African countries and various stakeholders with the capacity and tools to integrate climate resilience in investments in key sectors such as energy, water, agriculture, transport, cities, ecosystems. With the SDGs 2030 timeline just around the corner, there are still huge investment gaps to happen in Africa, in agriculture, in energy, in all these sectors that we mentioned. But for those investments to happen, we have to be sure that they will perform under future climate and also perform now, because we don't know what future climate there will be. So in 2015, the United Nations Economic Commission for Africa, together with the World Bank, published a report called Enhancing the Climate Resilience of Africa's Infrastructure. And that revealed a lot of things. For example, that under certain climate scenarios, certain water basins, such as the Zambezi, could lose up to 60% of the hydropower production potential. So we felt that that was a big finding. That's just one of the many of them. And therefore, we needed to do something to say, if you have a big gap to close with the investments on the continent, we know that Africa is being impacted the most by climate change, then those investments have to have some confidence that they will perform, otherwise the investors wouldn't come. And on the continent, we don't have the tools and the capacity to do that. And so as a progression from the AFRI, the Enhancing the Climate Resilience of Africa infrastructure work, we decided to establish AFRI-RES as a way of supporting that availability of that capacity and tools on the continent.
I learned data management, how to collect data, how to present facts, and also I learned on what is needed in the now to be able to have a better future for tomorrow. I'll be able to collect data in my community and to be able to know the prevalence of malaria presently in our community or in my nation, Cameroon, and also to be able to present it to my government or policymakers so that they'll be able to address the situation. And also what I've learned is what is needed now to be able to solve the problem or reduce the level of transmission of malaria, like for example the drainage system that is needed now, that if my nation can actually be able to provide draining systems and be able to manage their waste properly, it will help us to reduce the level of transmission of malaria and thereby reducing the breeding sites.
The first day, the professor was able to help me to understand resilience, especially looking at from the three parts that he actually explained. You have to be persistent, you have to be able to adapt, and then once you adapt, you'll be able to produce resilience. That's something that I actually learned. And then from today's teaching, there's a whole lot of model we've been working with, using temperature to understand the temperature when you come to agriculture sector, to use the temperature when you come to flooding. There's a whole lot of model that he has been teaching us since then, and these are something that I think will be very useful back in home. I'm going to do every teaching in the classroom. Okay, if I carry it in the classroom, I will be sustaining the knowledge, because I'll be passing the knowledge from one group of people to another group of people every year. And I will also do it for research as well. There's a whole lot of research work that I need to do. Maybe the reason why we are not going that direction, because we don't have a lot of people using our temperature data to be able to explain to our government officials. And so if we start to use the temperature data like what the professor did today, this is something that I actually want to do to be able to fill in the gap as well.
AFRI-RES facility is a joint initiative of the UN Economic Commission for Africa, Africa Union Commission, the World Bank, and the African Development Bank, with initial funding from the Nordic Development Fund. The training, in conjunction with the African Institute for Economic Development and Planning, EDEP, aims at strengthening the continent's decision-makers' capacity to plan, design, and implement climate-resilient projects.